First of all, I offer my sastang dandavat puspanjali, my heart like flowers thousands and thousands of times, at the lotus feet of my holy master, my spiritual teacher, Asmade Paramaradhatama Guru Pada Padma, Om Vishnu Pada Shroda Satsisimad, Rupanugacharya Varya Srila Bhakti Vedanta, Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Secondly, offer my pranam thousands of times to my Guru's Guru, my grandfather Guru, my great-grandfather Guru, great-great-grandfather Guru, and all of those very compassionate personalities by whose diligent endeavors and by whose causeless grace the nectar of a Braja Prem, pure spiritual love, descends from time immemorial to this world on this very day. And thirdly, offer my pranam to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis and all guests. For thousands of years, the Bhagavad Gita has held the position of the most central and essential text amongst all Vedic literatures. It has inspired countless millions of people on their spiritual paths from all walks of life, from Mahatma Gandhi to Ralph Waldo Emerson, Albert Einstein, so many great thinkers, poets, artists, and spiritualists have found profound inspiration in Gita, Bhagavad Gita. It's not a very long book, it's only 700 verses of poetry, so it takes only a few hours to read. But therein one can find the essence of spiritual life. The different types of yoga are described there: karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and ultimately bhakti yoga. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, there, one is presented with a very holistic and consistent picture of reality. Sometimes people say reality is the verdict of the majority. But reality is not a democracy. Reality is a mad monarchy. There is a supreme divine being whose will itself is reality. And when our heart becomes in complete harmony with the will of the divine being, that is called a bhakti. And by this, one becomes transcendental to all illusion. And one participates in the endless, blissful, loving dance of the Supreme Being. So in Bhagavad Gita, it is described that to understand reality, one must understand the various components of reality and how they relate to each other. So, predominantly, essentially, it is described that reality has 5 main components. And one who can understand the connection and the relationship, the dynamic relationship between these 5 components, has a thorough and profound understanding of reality. That person is an enlightened person. So we want to take a few moments to look at each of the 5 components of reality as described in Bhagavad Gita and how they relate to each other. And thereby we will be able to locate ourselves on this map of reality, to understand where we are, the direction in which we aspire to evolve, our ultimate goal, and how to get there. So first of all, the first component of reality is called jiva. Jiva means the soul. In Bhagavad Gita, where Sri Krishna described Mamayavankso jivaloke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. Every living being is a particle of my conscious energy eternally. This is something very essential to assimilate, that the Atma, the soul, is eternal, without beginning, middle or end, transcendental to time and space. We don't have a soul, we are the soul. We have a body, but we are the soul. We are not material beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a material experience. Very famous. So, now, this eternality of the self, of the individual self, is very important. And therefore, in the very beginning of Gita, Sri Krishna stresses this. He said, Na tuevaham jatu nasam, na tvam nemi janadipaha, na chaiva chabhavishamaha sarve vayam ataha param. Hey Arjun, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all of these kings on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and neither in the future will any of us cease to be. So here, Sri Krishna, for emphasis in one short verse of Sanskrit, he uses the first person singular, the second person singular, and the third person plural, and the second person plural, and the past, the present, and the future tense, all in one verse. I exist, you exist, they exist, we exist, we have always existed in the past, we exist in the present, and we will always exist in the future. Why? Why such an emphasis on this? Because Sri Krishna here is emphasizing the plurality of spiritual existence. This is a very difficult thing for the aspiring transcendentalist to grasp very often, because we tend to think that in transcendence, there everything is absolutely one. But Sri Krishna is saying, no, we are all individuals. It's one in the sense that there's no conflict in that plane. It's one in the sense that everything is in harmony, like one chord on an instrument. If someone plays a chord on an instrument, it's beautiful. It's one chord, but it's composed of several harmonies. So in the same way, the spiritual plane is not an absolute oneness, absolute one, it's a oneness of many spiritual, variegated, harmonic beings. So, the first thing to understand is that myself, yourself, we have always existed, and we will always exist, and we are always individuals. Just as from the sun millions of photons emanate, so from the Son of God millions of photon-like souls have emanated, and they will exist eternally. They will not go back into the sun and be dissolved. Sometimes people say, just like a drop of water enters into the ocean and becomes one, but actually it never becomes one. There are a fixed amount of atoms in that drop of water, and when it enters into the ocean, they're all still there. Only because our vision is defective and we cannot see the particulars of the atomic construction, we think one can say, oh, it merged with the whole, became one with the whole ocean. If you take a glass of water that's filled exactly to the brim, and you take a drop of water, it will not become one. It will overflow. This is the proof that it didn't become one. Otherwise it would not overflow. But by defective material vision, we think everything has become one. So the Vedas never speak about one. They speak about ekatva, oneness. The perfect harmony of all living beings within the divine play of God. So these 5 components of reality, we're just discussing one. It's very important to understand each one very clearly. Otherwise, we will adopt some kind of practice or method of spiritual life that will not bring about the most excellent result of devotion. So, the soul is an individual being. Just see. Everyone knows that the original syllable of the Vedas is what? Om. In the Padma Purana, it is stated, Akshare uchite Krishna sarvaloke kanayaka uchare prakriti radha makshare jiva vachakaha. There are 3 letters in Om. A represents Sri Krishna, the male aspect of divinity, and U is Urja Shakti, represents the female aspect of divinity. There is male and female in this world. It is a reflection of the eternal male and female divine. And the M represents me, the soul. So the syllable Om represents the eternal loving relationship between the soul and divinity in a beautiful, dancing, romantic, loving male and female aspects. Now, from this beach, this seed of the Vedas, Om, came manifested from the seed, the brahma-gayatri. You all know the brahma-gayatri? Om Bhur-Bhuvah. That's stopping. Yeah. Depending on which tradition some traditions don't say it out loud. So I see some people here saying, just making the lips, And others don't mind their saying that.
Can you explain please about the relationship of the mantra, the Gayatri mantra with what you said?
Yes. You see, the Omkar Pranava is called Bij. It is a seed. And if one meditates on that seed, then a seed, just as when you plant a seed, it begins to sprout. Because there's a potential within the seed that comes out. So from the Omkar Om comes the first sprout of the Omkar. It's called the brahma-gayatri. Om Bhur-Bhuvah, and so on. And that brahma-gayatri is called Vedamata, means the mother of the Vedas. All the Vedas have grown from that first sprout, just like a whole tree grows out from a seed. So, all the potential of all the Vedic scriptures is there within the seed Omkar and within the Brahma-gayatri also. And so, even though the Vedas are vast, if we can understand the essential message of the Brahma-gayatri, then we will have understood the entirety of the Vedas, because it's its first manifestation from the seed. So in the Brahma-gayatri, there's described Savitur. Supreme Lord is like the sun. And he has energy, Shakti, that is the female aspect. Bhargo Devasya. Devasya means, is a genitive case. Deva means God. And Deva comes from Div Dhatu in Sanskrit. Div Dhatu means Kridashil, to play. God is playful. Why does God create reality and the all existence? Why? In Vedanta Sutra, this question is asked and the answer is given. There was a man alone in the forest, and he'd been drinking some wine. After some time, he began to dance. There was no one there to see him dance, and there was no one to dance with. So why is he dancing? And the answer is because he feels good. So the answer is, why does God, who is the singularity, become many and manifest everything? Is there any reason, any cause? Did he have to do it? And the answer is, there's no reason, there's no cause. He does it because he feels He's overflowing with exuberance. So, that Dave means God. But it's not like the word God in English. I don't know, God is good, or however we associate the word God. The word God in Sanskrit, Dev, comes from Divadatu, means Kridashil. Overflowing with exuberance. And always eternally playful. So Devasya is a genitive case. It means of God, Bhargo Devas. The energy, the female aspect of God also, they're playing together. And Dhimahi means what? Meditate. But it's in the second person plural. Dhimahi, the Sanskrit verb, is in the second person plural. It means we meditate. We meditate. Not I meditate, you meditate, he meditate. We meditate. It's in the plural. In Sanskrit there's a singular case, the dual case, for whenever a verb relates to two things, and then there's a plural, means more than two. So Dhimahi means we meditate. Not one person meditates or two people meditate, but we. In other words, the essence of the brahma-gayatri is, oh my Lord, all of us, we, your eternal parts and parcels, all the souls, throughout the material world, throughout the heavens, and throughout the spiritual worlds, we all together meditate upon your glories. May you reveal yourself by your grace within our hearts. So, even from the beej of Omkar, the brahma-gayatri is sprouted. So from the very beginning of the Vedas, there is not a sense of an absolute one, but a oneness of all beings, the plurality of unlimited, countless beings being in harmony in their devotion to their source. You see? So this is essential, and it is the first component of reality described in Gita. It's called the jiva tattva, the principle of the soul. We are all individuals. Don't mix it up that I am you and you are me and we are all together and I am the walrus and whatever. So that comes just from taking too much LSD. It's not the conclusion of the Vedas. So, the first component. Is everyone okay with that one?
Yes, fantastic. Continue. It's fascinating.
I agree. It's so fantastic. Actually, you are listening, but I'm also not the speaker. I'm also listening, because I'm speaking the vibration that is coming down from thousands of years through the Vedas, and we are sharing that together. All are listening, and I think we all nod our heads in approval. Oh, this is fantastic. So we're all on the same page. The first component of reality, the jiva. Okay, we can move on to the next one. The next component of reality is called prakriti, nature, or maya, the material nature. Because our existence now it has two aspects. We have ourself, the soul, and the soul is covered by this physical body and mind. Just as you wear a shirt, and on top of that shirt you may wear a coat. So similarly, the soul is covered by a subtle psychic body composed of the mind, the intelligence and ego. And over the top of that subtle psychic body is the physical body made of the elements, the gross physical elements, earth, water, fire, air and space. So, this is called Maya, the material energy. When a soul is indifferent to or apathetic to his constitutional role as the blissful servant of his source, then Maya, the material energy, covers the identity of the soul with a material mind and then a further covering of a physical body. Once those coverings are in place, then the soul becomes oblivious to his own spiritual identity and thinks of himself in terms of being whatever type of body their karma has given them. I am young, someone thinks. Another person thinks I am old. Another person thinks I am black, I am white, I am Asian, Caucasian, Mongoloid or whatever. I am an animal. I am a dog, cat, human being. I am an angel, whatever. The soul is moving from body to body taking birth again and again, experiencing different physical forms, and in each form being oblivious to their own constitution and existence. They identify with the physical body. And that identification with the covering of the soul is so complete that it goes without question. For example, even at night, when you fall asleep, in your dream, you have a dream body. And whatever happens to that dream body, whether it can fly in the skies, no, I can fly. It's normal to you in your dream. If you cut off your finger, oh, I've cut off a finger. Whatever happens to the body, that we think it's real. And then when we wake up from the dream, we see, oh, everything's okay, and oh, what a bummer, I can't fly. So just see how the soul is susceptible to just blindly accept whatever is going on in its covering, in its material covering. And we do this again and again, lifetime after lifetime. So that is called maya or illusion, misidentifying the self with the physical coverings of the material mind and body. So that is the second aspect second component of reality. When we have a physical body, this physical body is affected by 3 energetic transformations. And those of you who practice yoga will be familiar with those 3 energetic transformations. They're called sattva, rajas and tamas. The tamas is the lowest energetic transformation. It brings about inertia, slowness, a laziness, a tiredness, anger. All the lower aspects of human nature are there in tamas. The next energetic transformation, rajas, is somewhat higher. It brings about frenetic activity, a lot of creativity and action and jumping here and there and being very ambitious and trying to build one's empire. As Jesus said, building your house upon the sand. Creating an edifice here in this world which is bound to be washed away by the tide of time that waits for no one. So that is the nature of rajas, to be involved in building one's dream in this world which inevitably will be washed away. And the highest energetic transformation is sattva. It's very serene, very peaceful, somewhat content, thoughtful, philosophical, appreciative of others. So these 3 energetic transformations, they compose the essential psychology of yoga. So tomorrow evening at the Temple of Peace, we'll be making, along with Kirtan, a multimedia presentation called The Psychology of Yoga. So it will be quite an in-depth seminar only on this, the energetic transformations of the mind, sattva, rajas and tamas, and how they affect our thoughts and feelings. So if you're interested in specializing in that psychology of yoga, please come tomorrow evening to the Temple of Peace. So, we are discussing the second principle of reality, and that is how the soul comes to be covered by prakriti or maya, illusion, the material energy, and in that state misidentifies himself with the physical body that has many requirements. The body is not self-sufficient. It demands food, water, oxygen, all of these things. And when many souls who are confined, encapsulated within these biological units of physical bodies come together, they compete with each other over the apparently limited resources of the world. And that is called life in the material world. It's a struggle between many living entities who are all competing with each other, being driven by their biological and psychological needs. So that's the difference between the material world and the spiritual world. In the spiritual world there is harmony, and in the material world there's a very fierce struggle, conflict, a struggle for existence between all the living entities. It's not easy.
So the physical experience, it's not enough? In the spiritual experience there is abundance?
Yes. In the material experience is always subscribed by limitations. But the spiritual experience, in spiritual mathematics, 1 + 1 = 1 and 1 - 1, is also 1. And 1 minus 10 million is also 1. It is the spiritual nature's inexhaustible. The soul can give and give and give, and always have more. This is the idea of the Vedas. It is mentioned in the Upanishad, Shree Upanishad and other Upanishads. One verse appears again and again. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om. The Supreme Truth is Purna, perfect and complete. And from that perfect completeness emanates unlimited, perfect, complete units. And although millions of countless experiences and beings emanate from the unlimited Supreme Truth, that Supreme Truth is not depleted in any way. Though everything may emanate from it, everything also remains. So that is the unlimited nature of the transcendental truth. So there's no conflict, there's no deficiency, there's no lacking. There is only perfection, that which is perfect. And it doesn't end there. There is that which is perfect, more perfect, and most perfect, even. So, Maya means Mriyate iti Maya. That which you can measure is called Maya. Illusory things can be measured because they have some limitation. But spiritual things are immeasurable. Just like you have perhaps heard, when Krishna is playing as a baby, he was very naughty. So his mother thought, I'll put a rope around his waist, like one of these security things for babies, and tie him to a grinding mortar, so he can only play around and make mischief in a small area of the house. So she took a rope to put around the waist of baby Krishna, but when she came to tie it, it was 2 fingers too short. So she took another rope and tied it and put it around, and again it was 2 fingers too short. She took another rope, like this, again and again, but it was always 2 fingers too short. It means that the Supreme Being is unlimited. You can never measure Him. You can never limit God in any way. And the souls that emanate from Him, they themselves are not unlimited in the same way that God is unlimited, but their dharma, their intrinsic nature to love, expands unlimitedly, so much that the love of the tiny insignificant living soul is so powerful that they can control the Supreme Being by the power of their love. That is the inconceivable, indescribable potential of Prem, spiritual love. So we have discussed first the jiva, and then prakriti, illusion, how the soul comes under illusion. The next component of reality is called kaal. Kaal means time. Time. When the energy of time in the Vedas is considered to be the glance of the Supreme Being. Here glance is a metaphor. Sa aikshata, the Upanishads say, Sa aikshata, he glanced. Glancing in the Vedas is a metaphor for desiring. Because when we desire something, we look, we glance there. So in other words, Supreme Being simply glanced. By his desire, all the components of reality were manifested. So, that glance carries within it the Shakti called kaal, time. And one who understands this becomes supremely peaceful. Completely peaceful. Because time is synonymous with the will of the all-gracious, merciful, friendly Supreme Being. Whatever expands, whatever transpires, whatever unfolds in the flow of time is the will of that Supreme Benign Being, and therefore is ultimately good for us and for everyone. So one who understands that time and the will of God are synonymous, then whatever happens in their life, they take this to be the grace of God. And sometimes it may be a difficulty or a problem, apparently, in life. But as even ordinary people often say, that every cloud has a silver lining. And it's true that as the entire script of life unfolds, we'll see that whatever difficulties were there, they were learning experiences that were bringing us to our state of perfection. So they were good. Just like sometimes a parent is somewhat strict with the child, and the child thinks that they are being dealt with harshly. But when they grow up, then they realize, my parents instilled discipline in me, and by virtue of that discipline, now my life is unfolding successfully. Sometimes he said, spare the rod and spoil the child. I'm not recommending that you beat your children, but what it means is, it's important that we have discipline in our life. It will work out wonderfully in the long run. So in the same way, sometimes it seems that we are assailed by the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. But really, it's not like that. The difficulties in life are not difficulties. They're opportunities to learn. They're opportunities to express a love for divinity which is unconditional. Not the sense that, yes, God, I'm going to serve you when I'm really comfortable and everything's okay, and I can just drive to the beach in my Mercedes and go surfing and like this. No, my Lord, unconditionally I am your servant. My love does not give any conditions at all. In whatever state I'm in whatever difficult situation I am in, I will remember you. I will speak of your glories. I will meditate upon you. And so a difficulty is not really a difficulty. It's a chance to express love. This is all. So, time, now we're going to combine some of the components. We mentioned before, it's understanding the relationships between the components that comprises true knowledge, sambandha gyan, the knowledge of relationship. So, we have the jiva, the soul. And the soul is covered by the material energy, maya. Now when time acts upon the material energy, it begins to move. And the movements of the material energy are called, that is the fourth component of reality, that is called karma. Karma. When time acts upon the elements of the material energy, they begin to move, and the movements of the material energy, that is the fourth component of reality, it is called karma. Now notice that we discussed the jiva, the soul, is covered by the material energy, and time acts on the material energy and makes karma. Notice how I did not say that time acts on the soul, because the soul is transcendental to time. Yes, soul is timeless. Soul is always beyond time. Only the soul identifies with the physical body. Time acts on the physical body, and the physical body does karma. But the soul is always transcendental. Always. So, the removal of ignorance, one doesn't have to die to become enlightened, or die to realize God, or die to go to heaven, or anything. One simply has to become free from the ignorance of identification with the physical body. But that illusion comes about, it is caused by indifference to God. And therefore, when one's natural love is awakened, love is the opposite of indifference. When you love someone, you serve them, you think about them. And when there's no love, you don't really care. You're indifferent. So the covering of the material energy comes about due to the apathy or the indifference of the soul towards God. And therefore, simply by engaging in acts of bhakti, then the entire structures of illusion melt away completely, and one becomes completely liberated while still alive in this world.
So love is the answer.
Love is the answer, yes. And bhakti means pure devotion.
So when you love him, do you have an opportunity basically to go to your soul and to get outside the condition that you identify with the physical body as who you are?
Yes, because that bhakti, that love, is the nature of the soul. So the soul becomes animated as soon as we engage in bhakti, instead of dreaming, sleeping in material identification. So now, when time acts upon the material elements, it makes the fourth component, that is called karma. Karma is activity. Now, in this world, all karmas, all actions are reactive. In other words, whatever we do As the scientists say, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. In other words, whatever we do has a repercussion that comes back to us. So, if we inflict pain upon others, that pain will come back to us. So pain in life is not the cruelty, oh God, why are you doing this to me? It's not like that. It is that we have given problems and difficulties to others, so it comes back. If we try to help others, that also comes back as the good karmas. So whenever we act, it produces a reaction. Now the question comes, if everything that I do produces a karmic reaction, then how will I ever become free from karmas? It means that my soul, at the end of one life, will again take birth in another life according to karma. You see, we all have different bodies. The soul is being born in different genders, different races, different bodies, with various attributes, merits, qualities, and the absence thereof also. So, why are we all so different? It's because each one of us has acted differently in the past. And the accumulated result of all of those past actions causes the soul to take birth wherever, in America or Europe or India or wherever it might be, with a particular body that has particular skills and so on. This is all in accordance to karma. So, if everything that we do produces karma, then the soul will never come out of this endless cycle of reincarnation, birth and death. So the answer is this. Whenever the cause of our activity is ourselves or something of this world, then, because the cause is material, there has to be a material effect. So whatever we do for ourselves, whatever ambition or selfish agenda we pursue in life, that will have a reaction. The effect will come because our material desire is a cause. So the cause is material and a material reaction comes. So bhakti, the life of bhakti yoga, pure devotion, means that we never have a material cause for anything that we do. We are not doing anything for us. Every activity we do is for the service and the happiness of the transcendental Supreme Being. And so because transcendence is the cause of our activity, then there is no reaction, because the reaction is absorbed by transcendence. And thereby, the bhakta, the devotee, they take rest, they sleep, so they have more energy for service. They sing in the service of divinity. They dance in the service of divinity, even eat. The devotee in bhakti prepares food, not meat, because that gives pain to the other living entities. So vegetarian food preparing, thinking, oh Krishna, I'm cooking for you, my beloved, I'm cooking for you. And they'll take the food and place it upon their altar and pray and meditate. Kindly accept my offering. And then that food becomes sanctified, spiritualized. And by tasting it and also distributing to others, our senses of the body and the mind, they also become purified by that food, which is called prasad. So at any spiritual gathering, there must be a distribution of prasad, because our intelligence is purified by discussion. Our soul is purified by the kirtan. And even our physical body becomes purified of karmas by tasting the prasad. And if one's senses are very, very purified, then by tasting that prasad, one can actually have a darshan, the vision of God, even by honoring His remnant. So, bhakti is a life of devotion. And so every activity in the life of the bhakti yogi, because it has no material cause, it's all aimed at transcendence, therefore it has no material effect. And so one becomes free from all karma. So, 4 components we have touched briefly. Atma, the soul. Maya, the material energy. Kaal, time. The combination of time upon the material energy makes karma, activities. And then the last ingredient, the last component is Ishvara. Ishvara means God. From whom everything has emanated, within whom everything exists, who exists within also everything, and who also has his own existence beyond everything. It's called God, Ishvara. And the soul has no real permanent relationship with anything of this physical world, though we tend to think so. The living entities in illusion become patriotic. Yeah? God bless America. Don't worry about the other countries, God. Forget about all the other countries, just bless America. God save the Queen. They say in England, and from England. In this life, God save the Queen. And so each nation thinks God should help. They have patriotism because they identify with the body and then in turn identify with the place in which the body was born and so on. So the illusion expands and expands and expands. So all these types of illusion are there. And we act this out. And when we're in illusion, we try to practice spirituality, but it's mixed with our illusory conceptions, and so we pray to God to involve God in our illusory agenda. It's absurd. God bless America. God save the Queen. And people, they go to war, and both sides are praying for the help of God to kill the other person, and so on. Throughout history, this is what happens. It's religion, but it's not pure. It's a vague religion that's mixed with illusion. So bhakti is entirely different. Bhakti is not about involving God in our illusory nightmare agenda here in this world. Bhakti is about us, the soul, becoming involved in the spiritual agenda of God in the transcendental world. So, to understand about God in the transcendental world, we have to hear from the lips of enlightened souls. Those who have entered into the trance of Bhakti Yoga and experienced the spiritual plane and then returned into the external consciousness of this world to describe the beauty of the divine Leela, the divine play. And when we hear it, it is absolute. This is a very profound concept. You see, if I describe to you something about Australia, it's just a description of Australia. Because there's a difference between the place Australia and the sound vibration that describes it. But because the Supreme Reality, the Supreme Lord, is beyond duality, He's absolute. There's no difference between that transcendental realm and the description, the words that describe it. So when someone sits and listens to the transcendental narration of the divine Leela from a qualified spiritual teacher, simply by listening, your soul can go there. That is called Krishna Katha. Krishna Katha means the sacred narration. It is a sacred narration of the pastimes of divinity, and it's sacred because it has the potential to take you there right now. You don't have to wait until you die, because there's no time. There's only the eternal present. And therefore, one can enter into the divine play of the Lord now, if one simply accepts what the position of the unconditional loving servant. So, this evening, we have discussed the 5 components of reality. Atma, what were they? First one? Atma, jiva, the soul. Second one? Prakriti, Maya, illusion. Second one?
Third one?
Kaal, time. Yes. Fourth one? Karma, activity. And fifth one? Ishvara, Supreme Lord. And we're not speaking of a conception related to our illusion, but a pure conception of the soul's divine play there. So tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock,